So we got our hands on the Blackmagic UltraStudio Mini Recorder, and we were able to compare the footage that we were able to get from this through the HDMI out on our camera, recorded to our computer, and compare that against the stock footage that was recorded internally on our Sony A7. And the results are in. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back to 2-Bit Da Vinci. I am Ricky, and today we are here to talk about the final chapter of our How to Get Started on YouTube video series. So if you watched our previous videos, we've made a video on how we came to choose our audio recording methodology for YouTube. We're new to this, so we wanted to take the best audio and the best video possible. And today, we're going to close up with the video that I've been waiting to do because it finally came in, on the quality of the video recording that we get from the UltraStudio Mini. This little unit has HDMI or SDI in from your camera, and it has a Thunderbolt out which connects to your computer, and you can record uncompressed footage from the HDMI out on your camera. We're really curious how much better the video quality could get. We were pretty impressed with the quality coming out of the camera, but we thought if it was a lot better, would it be worth it? Should we do it? So that is what we're doing here today. So the first thing I have to say is it was actually a really frustrating experience because when I plugged it in, I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get any signal from my camera. Now when I plug in my camera to a monitor, whether it's through HDMI, 1080p or it worked. I was able to get the footage and view it and it looked fine. But when I used the UltraStudio, I got nothing. It was just a black screen. And so after digging around for quite a while, I figured out that I had to set my Sony A7 to output 1080i over HDMI. And once I did that, I actually got some footage. Now, I means interlaced, which means that every other line of the screen is refreshed every other frame. P means progressive, which means that the entire screen is refreshed at one time. So really, you want to get P if you can. So is 1080i good enough? Well, let's find out. But I will say that I was pretty bummed out about this. I wanted to get 24 or 60 frames per second on 1080p, uncompressed, and record it in a much higher quality codec, like a ProRes codec, rather than the AVC HD, which the camera records internally. But that being said, I finally got it all to work, and here's what the footage looks like. So we're gonna do a quick comparison now between the two. All right, we are back, and now I am recording simultaneously on my camera and over HDMI externally, which is kind of cool. I didn't know if I could do that or not, but it turns out you can. The Sony can record internally and also send out an uncompressed signal over HDMI to an external monitor for recording or viewing. Does the 1080i matter? Will it affect the video footage? Let's find out. But the one thing I can tell you is that we did some testing on how much bigger the file size would be. Now get this, to record internally on the Sony A7 the full high quality 24 frame, it's about 0.17 gigabytes per minute. So that means that if you take 10 minutes of video, it'll be about 1.7 gigs, less than 2 gigs. The Blackmagic Recorder records at 7.5 gigabytes per minute, which means that a 10-minute clip is going to be 75 gigabytes, and that's huge. That means that you're not going to be able to record as much, you're going to be filling up hard drives a lot more. You'll see that bringing this kind of a big file size into Final Cut is harder, it takes longer to import. We didn't really see much of a difference in the video quality. So for us, that bigger file size was strike two. 1080i, not 1080p. And now this huge file size, which is 40 times as big as the internal recording, for very minimal differences in the quality of the output footage. You know, that for us was the final nail in the coffin. We decided we're just gonna stick with the Sony A7. Now this little gadget is a pretty cool little device. The build quality is absolutely top notch. It actually resembles more of a military aircraft bus recorder than it does a consumer audio recorder. It is absolutely rugged and sturdy. I've dropped it a few times and it holds up really, really, really well. Now the inputs, of course, you have SDI for cameras that have that, and also HDMI. For us, that's what we went with. And on the back, you have just the Thunderbolt cable. So the software is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. Now the box comes with an SD card with drivers on it. Don't even bother with that. Go to blackmagic.com and download the latest drivers right off the bat. Now once you set everything up, it's pretty straightforward. There's really only one control you have to set up, which is picking SDI or HDMI. Now by default, it comes pre-selected with SDI. So you have to switch over to HDMI. Now other than that, once you go to the recording part of the software and you go to capture, you have to choose from a couple of menu options. You have to go and pick what kind of resolution you want to be shooting at. Now what's tricky here is that you kind of have to pick and play and kind of figure it out because there's no real easy way to know what you're shooting. Again, we went to 1080p output on our camera, hoping we can get that. And we picked every single one of the options, 23.98 frames per second, 24, 25, 30. We tried them all, none of it worked. And finally, we had to switch over to the 1080i resolution on the camera. And then finally, 1080i 60 frames per second that worked for us from our Sony A7. Now we went onto the forums, we looked around, and it looked like we weren't alone. There were some other people who had similar issues as well. So keep all that in mind. If this unit can work for you, if you can find the way to use it correctly, I think it's a really good unit and it performs pretty well. But for us, the larger file size and the fact that the quality just kind of seems too close to the camera, we can't recommend it and we're not gonna use it. I think we're gonna just go ahead and stick with the internal recording on the Sony A7. Now the flip side of that is, even though we are a bit disappointed with the Blackmagic unit, I gotta say that we are really surprised and very impressed with the recording on our Sony. And so for now, we're gonna stick to our Sony A7, record internally, and just go from there. And if we keep doing this and we get some more footage and we keep having fun with it, eventually we'll probably invest in a new camera, maybe something with 4K. But for now, here you have it. We have our audio and our video sorted out. All right, well that is it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new and you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe. We promise we'll keep the content coming. We're gonna aim for a couple of videos a week. We're gonna cover all kinds of topics from woodworking to DIY projects to crafts, tutorials and tech, and we hope you stay tuned. Thank you so much for your support. Have a good one.